Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Gerst. I've been hiring and mentoring executives, frontline employees, and job seekers for nearly 40 years through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions, big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big job change. We all know transitions can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have actionable strategies and proven tactics to achieve the future you want. We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to your next great job. So if change is on your horizon, you won't want to miss this discussion. Also, please subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. Jared Tang, thank you for joining me today on People in Transition. I'm really looking forward to this conversation about recruiting and job seekers and technology. I think that we'll have a great time.
Absolutely. Bob, it's really a pleasure to be here today. Thanks so much for having me on your cast.
Jared, I always ask my guests, when you were a child, what was it that you thought you wanted to be when you grew up?
So that's a funny one because one of the things that I found most exciting was skateboarding. So I really wanted to be a professional skateboarder when I was growing up. It was mainly because a lot of my friends were really into it. I really liked shopping at Zoomies, and it was a lot of fun to be a part of it. And then I got into other sports, and it really took my focus into, actually wanting to do more professional sports elsewhere. And then I transitioned into college, and then I realized that there was more to that.
And Jared, what were the transition moments that you went through as you saw yourself as that professional skateboarder to where you're at today?
Honestly, skateboarding was a really big passion of mine. And then I started to realize how hard it was for me to stay healthy, and especially at a very young age, right? You go from, bumps and bruises and scrapes in your knees to really hurting yourself pretty bad. So I wanted to avoid that. And then I started playing other sports where I can really focus on building my body up, and played football for a while. And that's when I started doing something like that in college. And then it dawned on me that my studies were the most important part of it. And then I fell in love with marketing and business. And that's when the trajectory of my career changed, really, from being wanting to be a professional skateboarder or an NFL player or any of the above in really wanting to own my own business, really wanting to help businesses grow and flourish and do more for people all over the world rather than just for my own personal brand.
And Jared, you've done recruiting and marketing and owning your own business. So you have a pretty good handle on the pulse of the whole recruiting scene. What are some of the interesting, exciting trends that you're seeing in the job market for 2023, 2024?
I've played many hats that are either transitioning myself or from transitioning to wanting to help people to find roles or being the person who's making that hire. I've seen a lot of different professionals, and I've had to take a lot of different approaches. And recently, the biggest trend that I think people having to currently actually being asked to come into the office a little earlier than, or at all actually at this point. And it's actually being almost a cop out in some way for layoffs. And it's taking people by surprise, and they're getting very short notice to do so. Unfortunately, people are, without having that same, because you can say, reprieve or benefit of that you would get from a business who was laying you off, you're now in a position where you need to make a decision. Do I need to move to a different state? Do I need to change my lifestyle? Do I need to make a hard decision and actually leave rather than go into the office because I may not be within the same state? I just actually spoke to a gentleman this morning who was considering signing up for our platform. And he was like, either I have to find a new job or I have to move to Virginia. And he's all the way in Pennsylvania. So it's a bit of a trip, right? And you have to relocate your entire family. So that's a big trend I'm seeing right now in the space, as well as, an inundation of people who are now transitioning into technology because it has become, I guess, what you can say, the fountain of youth for new opportunities. And it's been an interesting conundrum to see people who come from all different kinds of walks of life or all different levels of education, and they're now all converging into one sector, and that's providing services in Salesforce, Oracle, and SAP.
And they're moving into technology as they're reading about all of these layoffs in Google and other places. I don't understand that psyche behind that
Ex-
kind of shift.
Exactly. And it's honestly very interesting, right? It's almost like leading the charge on something that it seems to be running yourself into a hole or a pit of sorts, right? And it's primarily because technology is shaping the world in different ways. We have AI that's now expanding and growing and building, and roles and different types of technology roles are being redefined and recreated to build off of other skill sets that are normally you wouldn't have anticipated would be now in the technology sector. The layoffs are really happening more within the technology companies, the Goliaths of the world that are looking to downsize teams because maybe they have scaled too much or they have really big ideas that really couldn't get going, and now they have too much overhead or all that kind of jazz, right? And at the end of all of it, businesses will always at this point need technology. And it is a standard for enterprise softwares. It is a standard for business analysts to be a part of that. And that's a nice tidbit right there. Business analysts, you normally would have a degree in technology, but in reality, you're really talking about how the technologies themselves are creating efficiencies across your business processes as a whole. It's more of a business role than a technology role, if you think about it. But at the end of it all, really what's setting us apart from each other is that the companies themselves that are growing rapidly are the businesses that own the technology, but every business will need technology at some point. So every business will need that Salesforce admin, that NetSuite developer to come on and build efficiencies across it all. So it's almost like creating a commodity, but at the same time, a commodity that needs to consistently be evolving and changing rapidly.
Jared, what do you make of the Great Resignation, and what is the impact of that for job seekers?
The Great Resignation is almost like a wave. The way I looked at it, it was almost like a really big tidal wave, but in the other direction. It was people taking back their right to be choosy and be picky and making decisions based on emotion as opposed to trying to play it safe. At the end of the day, I'm a candidate's candidate. Right, I'm a candidates kind of guy. I believe that the candidate always is king, right? They are the talent. They are the professionals that are going to bring ideas and visions to life. They're the professionals that are going to come in and shape really the world, because the business may be the catalyst, but it's really the people in the business that are redefining spaces, that are changing the way that we do things as a whole. So I think that it's nice to see the candidates have that power, but at the same time, it does put companies in a very strange position. And it also puts the economy in a very strange position as well, because we are also entering a world where there's kind of give and take. It's a push and pull kind of mechanism going on here where companies they're trying to hold on to their very best talent, but candidates are looking for the very best role. And it's almost like everybody's shopping around, but they're shopping for each other. If you can imagine that, it's a strange analogy to believe, but it's almost like going to the supermarket and buying a person, and then vice versa, going to the supermarket and buying a company, and have to be the right fit for each other. But at the end of it all, I think that both sides are really scared of the other side right now. And that's what's fueling the Great Resignation, because you want to get out before you get the layoff, because you want to have that security. But at the same time, there's a lack of trust there because there's less rapport being built because of this elephant in the room that no one's really speaking about, that there's a potential that the Great Resignation may impact your business negatively and layoffs may impact you negatively as a candidate.
Might this dynamic cause someone to jump prematurely?
Oh, absolutely. I think the layoffs are really what fuels the Great Resignation as a whole. You're scared, so you're always looking. You never know, so you're always in a position where you're always looking. And then people will leave without having opportunities because they know what they have, right? I'm a good candidate. I have a skill set that's difficult to come by. I may live in a state that the cost of living is lower, so I can ask for the national average or standard, but I'll still live comfortably. So people are being picky and choosy because both sides are a little bit worried that the other is going to hurt them, and they have to always be prepared. So there's always an inundation of candidates that you want to collect in your ATS system nowadays. So that way, just in case, you lose the person who's running a process now, you have someone who can pick that up later. And that level of fear, I think, is causing a lot of stress between both sides. And I think the way to get out in front of that is to be honest with each other. It is to be upfront with each other, and is to showcase on both sides you're here to stay. And not to say you shouldn't be looking, and you should always keep your options open if you're a candidate that's always looking for a better opportunity, but you have to be able to be trusted and trust others, and vice versa.
Jared, I've talked on earlier episodes about the importance of networking and it being an essential part of the career transition. Can you elaborate on some of your tactics you use when you're networking to create those meaningful connections between professionals?
Absolutely. Actually, networking and my love for networking is actually a large reason why we implemented that into our business as well for Gaggle Social. Having that networking component is extremely important. And I think the most important and things to keep in mind when you're actually trying to connect with another person is to recognize that it's not just the word connection. Connection has become a verb. In reality, it's always been a verb, but it's become a verb that is just easily said. In reality, what does it really mean to connect with somebody? It really means to be able to have a common kindred spirit-like relationship with someone. And having that connection is what drives relationships. It's not just, I press that button and I've made a connection. It's, I've pressed that button with intent and with the intention of now building off of this relationship. So realistically speaking, that can look like a lot of things for you. And I think that the number one advice that I can give, at least when it comes to keeping in mind about how to connect and network with people, is rip the Band-Aid off, right? You'll never know how someone's going to respond to you until you reach out. And I think a lot of people connect and they're scared to make that first move. It's not about anything other than trying to understand where you and somebody else can find common ground. And in finding common ground, you'll be able to develop relationships. And in developing relationships, you'll both be able to benefit from each other.
Jared, let's flip that coin over for just a moment. You've had some really great ideas in terms of how to successfully network. What are some things that you tell candidates, people that you know, to not do in the networking process because it just won't work?
Because of how often people are connecting right now, that's not to say that's a bad thing, but a lot of people will power connect. They'll just go down the list. They'll look up a keyword and go boop, 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 click on all these different connections and hope for the best, right? And then never talk to any one of them. People are used to connections not really meaning anything. It's almost like a friend request now on social media is like Instagram, right? Where it's more, a follow request, where it's not as important, right? To have that. It's more of a number at this point. So one thing that I can say is to not approach it that way. Don't approach networking in that fashion. Break up your networking into intentional buckets. To maybe at most, if you're looking to just get into an industry, learn more about an industry, just connect with other people who are like you, send out 10 connection requests that day. And then when they come in and they accept them, build meaningful conversations. You can't build meaningful conversations with 80 new accepted requests. This is not possible. It's too overwhelming. Go ahead and spend a couple of minutes crafting up your first approach for each of them. Try not to sound salesy because you're not selling anything, right? You're selling yourself. So make a friendship. Approach it like you're trying to make a friendship. So that you work in so-and-so industry, right? So do I. Or I'm interested in getting into that space. Tell me a little bit more about that. Give others a reason to respond to you so that way you can in turn benefit from a relationship. So don't approach it like I need 40 or 50 connections today in order for me to have felt like I made a dent in the day in connection-wise networking. I want to be able to walk away from today with intent. Another thing that you could say is that you don't reach out asking for things off the bat. You want to ask people what it is that they need from you mostly. Approach people with a service-focused manner and you will receive friendships, you will receive relationships, and people will help you for helping them. So you approach things in a very matter-of-fact, hi, I am so-and-so. It's a pleasure to connect. Let's get to know each other better. What can I do to help you? And in return, people will help you back, even if you didn't help them. The fact that you tried to help, the fact that you were a part of that approach makes them feel more confident in this new connection with you.
Jared, can you describe to us what Gaggle Social is all about and what impact it has on candidates?
Absolutely. So Gaggle Social is actually, it was a COVID brainchild, right? A partner and I identified that there was a bit of a disconnect between the professional social networks and job networks, as well as the candidates and the companies. So Gaggle Social is the enterprise software dedicated professional social network. It's designed to help the HR and IT professionals and leaders effectively connect with each other because they're spending too much time or money trying to find each other in the process. And we do that by a freemium suite of networking and hiring solutions that are pretty much designed to address the bottlenecks in the hiring process, allowing you freer range of advertising your technology skills and allowing you more opportunities to identify the right candidates through things like our average job posting features that have anti-biased capabilities that help candidates to find roles and be identified by the right fit without having to worry about biases in race, culture, religion, sexual orientation, gender, and in the process, also significantly shortening the hiring process by shortening the shortlist by 13% and also shortening the time it takes to identify talent and skills by an average between 50 to 60% now.
And how would you say, not only in Gaggle Social, but a broader sense, all types of technology tools. How would you coach a job seeker to use that technology to support them in their search?
I think that is probably the biggest question that people kind of face on a regular basis is, which tools do I use and how strong do I have to be in proficiency with those tools to find the job, and how much effort is that going to take? At the end of the day, right, you only have so many hours in a day. What can you do? The best ways that I can recommend technologies and identifying the right fit for those is to identify what it is that those technologies do and the power that each technology has. Looking around, identifying key features and seeing out of the 20 or 30 job boards that you can look at, is this the right one for me? Does this fit my needs? We've obviously identified ours towards a niche, which is unique to the industry because there aren't as many job boards that focus in a specific industry or niche. So we've been able to build tailored solutions that are designed for one specific purpose, helping enterprise software professionals find enterprise software jobs. So to use more general purpose boards, or you have to identify if they're going to represent you the best. Is this going to help me find the jobs based on the functionality that they're providing me on a budget, if that's a budget or if that's for free? And from there, methodically planning out your application process. Don't power apply. Power applying is detrimental to not only your time, but your psyche. Power applying is going down the list on, Indeed and ZipRecruiter for the easy apply button and just clicking on every single one of them and hoping that you get something out of it without reading a single job description. Be intentful, be impactful in your searching process. Read through things. Is this role a good fit for me? And if you spend more time reading about these roles, you'll feel the bigger connection. You'll understand what you need to say in those pre-screening questions. You'll have a higher success rate in being at least brought on for an interview. And in turn, you will see far fewer rejections because not only will you have fewer applications submitted, but at the same time, you'll be a better fit for the ones that you did submit for. If you spent 30 minutes applying to 100 jobs and all 100 of those jobs are only maybe a 70% match for your skills and vice versa, versus if you spent 30 minutes applying to 3 jobs that you're a 90% match for, you're going to see a higher success rate. It's just going to be a better experience for you. You're not going to have to look at your email every time you get a buzz and see that you've been rejected from a job, because you're going to see 3 or 4 instead that are going to be hopefully a little bit more better news than anything because of the approach that you took for that.
That goes along the lines I read somewhere is that it's really important that you know yourself well so that you can be most effective in the recruiting process. What does that mean to you, Jared?
Knowing yourself, that plays a big piece also into going ahead and applying deeply. We're going to go a little bit more negative first. Going ahead and applying so often and applying to 30 roles in 20 minutes and doing 200 applications a week, and you start to get more and more rejections. You start to see more and more negative news coming into your mail. Before you know it, you're going to have imposter syndrome. Even if you are Steve Jobs in his prime, when he was like, I am the smartest marketing mind. And if he was in this situation, he would probably have the same experience. Oh man, what do I do now? And nobody wants me. Well, that's not true. There's a job for everyone. There are millions of jobs that are posted in just technology alone, right? Let's talk about globally. But at the end of the day, there's only one you. So you need to protect your brain and your spirits. And, at the end of the day, what that really does to you is it allows you to really stay in touch with yourself if you are impactful in your approach. And with that and knowing who you are, you're going to be able to sell yourself in better. An interview is conversation between 2 people to identify whether or not they're a good fit for each other. It's almost like going on a date, but in reality, the other side of that is a company. And you have to showcase your best self. Well, you can't showcase your best self unless you know what you're not good at and what you are good at, because you need to identify what it is that you want to accentuate and what it is that you want to build on. So being in touch with who you are, being in touch with who you need to be in the future, right? And having a plan on who you want to be in a couple of years is very important to understanding not only where it is that you're valued in a job search, but also what you can bring to the table and how you can negotiate for yourself in the future as well. When you are given the opportunity that somebody says, hey, we'd like to work with you. How does $110,000 a year sound? And you want 130, you know what you deserve and you know what you bring to the table, and you'll be able to sell that better. And no one sells you better than yourself.
Jared, what advice do you have for job seekers in the tech industry or really other industries to enhance their visibility and attractiveness to hiring managers?
That can go in many directions. And I think the way that I would go about, if I was giving somebody direct advice right here, right now, like I am, I would be saying to myself, what is it that I need to accentuate in my abilities that my resume may not be showcasing? And then be able to bring that to the forefront in regards to the resume, but also use the other tools that you have at your disposal. Build social media platform sites, right? Build your profiles in LinkedIn and Gaggle Social and all the other ones out there, and make sure that you're putting the forefront of your abilities at the very beginning. You're coming off as a thought leader in the content that you're posting, because everything's publicly available. Like, be very careful about what you put online. Be very careful about what you say, and definitely be a little bit, I guess you could say, a little bit direct in what it is that you want, right? People are going to help you if you help yourself. So going out there and saying, there's no shame in going to LinkedIn and saying, I'm looking for work. This is who I am. I need help. Please, someone from my network, help me. And people will share that. And if you share with others, please, will you share my resume around, right? And the same goes for, obviously, for Gaggle Social. The way that we do it in Gaggle Social is a little bit different, and accentuating your skills is something that's not as easy on other platforms as it is with us, because we build what we call a skills matrix. And your skills matrix is a very easy to look at table-like format that explains your proficiencies and years of experience within certain roles using certain technologies. And you go as granularly down as the cloud in which you worked in within Salesforce and some of the modules and apps that you may have played there. So it's a little bit easier through our platform to be able to accentuate your skills. But for someone using LinkedIn and Indeed, you really, really want to accentuate that very early on in it, because you only have maybe 7 seconds to impress somebody on a profile. You have to be a standout, right? And if you're not standing out, which is difficult to do in a sea of people who are very similar to you in skill, and as well on a profile that's pretty much looks the same as everybody else's, except with a different picture or, a different name on there. It's very difficult. So yes, trying to be in the forefront of what it is that you can bring to the table, showcasing those, asking for help. That's where your network comes into play. And also really, really trying to build iterations of your resume. A/B test that. Take your resume for a spin. Build 2 to 3 versions of your resume with different explanations about what you've done, obviously keeping true to the standard formats that you would have, but using them in maybe a cycle. See what works the best. You have to use the time that you have to test yourself productively.
The recruiting process is filled with potholes. You get rejections. You're doing things that maybe your skill set is not as strong at. In fact, that's the reason for this podcast, is to try to help people build their job-seeking skill set. And it weighs on people's psyche. Is there anything that you would coach someone who's going through that job-seeking process to help deal with the emotions?
I think, yes, definitely stay away from that power applying. Definitely stay away from the overstress and the stagnation, right? You want to spend some time really using your time in transition to grow. You really want to think about it and think carefully about the way in which you're approaching everything, but even the walks of life, right? Because you don't want this to also impact your personal relationships and your spouse and your kids. So you really need to use this as a time to grow and develop also. Try to stay away from spending all of your time applying, and spend some more time developing more skills. Look into things that may interest you, that may even be similar to what you have, and learn them, right? Learn new crafts, try on new hobbies, and designate times throughout the day of when you're going to apply. And this will allow you to obviously keep yourself structured, but it's far more fulfilling to then find new things that you can innovate on and you can grow a skill in. Well, let's use the example of, we're a product manager, right? We're used to managing the development of a product. And, we did that for 10 years. And it's been some time since we've even considered a different role, because for us, it's always been, that's where we're at and that's what we're good at. And then you get laid off, which is scary. But what do you do now? You start to apply for product manager roles, right? But then what happens if during the time that you're applying for product manager roles, you actually take the opportunity to also get certified as a product owner, which is a step above. And you start to use that opportunity to develop a brand new skill set that is related, but will also equate to a larger payout. And then in the grand scheme of things, you'll find fulfillment in doing a second revamp of what you're used to doing, or even if that's a complete different change. We saw a lot of people transition from education into Salesforce. A lot of people transition from marketing or sales into Salesforce as a career, and now they're all for it. First year of making Salesforce, they're making a good amount of money, and then they only will go up from there. So really trying to build on your marketable skills while trying to be impactful and protect your psyche by not power applying and being really careful about how you are approaching your job search goals. And then on top of that, doing things that really make you happy, doing things that make you enriched. Try to find new things, try to try new experiences, try new foods, build new skills, learn new hobbies. This is not a time where you need to fear as much as it's a time for you to say, this is a new way for me to live my life. And this is an opportunity for me to level up.
Jared, do you have any books or other resources that you recommend to someone that's going through their own transition?
There's a lot of interesting things to read. I definitely do recommend the originals by Adam Grant, as well as The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which is a more of a classic philosophical direction. The reason for that is that book teaches you strategy, teaches you diplomacy, the importance of decreasing the wastage of your resources as much as possible. And it can apply to many factors in your life. So it can really play a very large factor on really not only the transitioning aspect of your life, but how far that you can go if you get yourself out of your comfort zone and build a new domain of new comfort.
Jared, we covered a lot of information today. If there are 3 things that you would pass on to a job seeker that you want to make certain that they know and implement, what are those 3 things?
What I would say the biggest recap that I would recommend is that your intent behind your networking and your job applications is very important. Be deliberate in your approach to everything that you do. Give importance to your daily activities. That's 1. 2 is to be kind to yourself. Be kind to your mind, right? Go ahead and get headspace. Go and get calm and focus on trying to do things that are going to enrich you in many ways. It's going to build your mental focus. It's going to help you have unwavering support for yourself. And on top of that, like we also mentioned, there's millions of jobs, there's millions of people in this world, but there's only one you, and you are very special to everybody who is important to you as well. Everybody who's in your life wants to see you succeed. Everybody who's in your life wants to see you grow. And you owe it to yourself, but you owe it to them to show them that you can overcome these obstacles. This is a way for you to now start anew. So it's almost like a congratulatory situation, right? Congratulations, you're in transition. And then on the last piece that we can say to that would really be to find networks and support groups that'll understand you and that you can learn from as well as grow with. So join that Facebook group, join that LinkedIn community, join that Gaggle Social community, join anything that you can that will allow you to stay close enough to the people who are similar to what you're going through and more.
Jared, I know that all my listeners got so much information today. I thank you for caring enough to share with them how they might be able to find their next great job faster and easier. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob, for having me, and I really appreciate being a part of this.
Thank you for listening. We're working in unprecedented times. The purpose of these episodes is to give you the support and critical tools to adjust with the changing marketplace. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully survived their own obstacle course and can share useful information. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on your social media. Your review and rating helps get this to more people. Also, if you have questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode.